Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, 62-14 goes the way of the good guys at the Jones on Saturday. We're talking Baron Morton. We're talking strain in short yardage situations. And we're talking the thick six that shook the world. Next on Locked On Texas Tech.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you for a reaction episode today, and it's brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. 62-14 is the way it winds up as the Red Raiders take care of business in week 2. For the most part, Chris, I think a lot of boxes checked as far as what we wanted to see transpire, but obviously some things sticking out as well to Red Raider fans, and we'll get to that on today's episode. We'll talk crimes against the family. Infractions continue to seemingly be a problem, particularly seems like with the special teams group. Also want to talk about the effort that we're getting from this defense, particularly the front line of it, because it is a sight for sore eyes in so many ways. Obviously, there were moments, short yardage situations where Texas Tech was not just bulldozing the Kent State competition, and that obviously standing out to a lot of fans. We'll get to that in a moment. But I think kicking off the conversation, we got to start with number 2. We got to start with the QB, Baron Morton, marked safe at the completion of the ball game. And for the most part, looking damn good, Chris. I think you did see him get into a bit of a rhythm. I was a little bit surprised maybe how long he was out there, but neither here nor there. I think we saw everything we wanted to see in week 2 from Baron Morton. What'd you think?
Yeah, it was pretty clear. You know, Joey mentioned this, and we touched on it some last week. It was kind of like, okay, which do you weigh more? And Joey touched on it some last week, but he really, like, when I taped his interview for the radio broadcast, and at this point we knew that Baron was actually going to start. He just really kind of doubled down on, I want him in rhythm. I want him feeling good. And I just don't think we can – they're all still learning here. This is very much still a new offense and the vertical choice game, as they would call it. And I think he wants him in more snaps and just kind of working through a lot of these things. And we even – saw some miscommunication, some timing issues, some kind of slightly being off, not on the same page, I should say, in this game. But I think it was important. I thought you may get a quarter and a half. I was surprised that he ultimately, but then you could tell okay, we're getting him to halftime, and then he gets to wear the ball cap and hold a clipboard or whatever you do over there. But I think internally that was very important for them to have him in rhythm. And Mac Leftwich, even we mentioned this on the broadcast on Saturday, but Mac Leftwich said, he goes, I've always been taught if the starting quarterback can play, that's what you do. There is no, if he's ready to go, this is what you do. You don't, there's too many things that can happen in college football. And as we sit here and go, man, you weren't going to lose to Kent State. Well, but that's not the way they think. And so, yeah, I thought he played for the most part pretty well. I think there was some red zone issues that we can talk about. Terrence Carter has a massive drop that would have been a big gain, maybe score. But there was a couple other throws that Baron was just a little underthrown, a little overthrown, and there were some timing issues on one red zone series that I think you had to settle for a field goal. But this is what you're trying to do. You're trying to sort through a lot of these things. But I thought overall, I'm just glad he played. He looked fine.
Yeah.
There's no, I mean, if you'd have told me this a week ago, I mean, I'm not sure I would have necessarily bought it. When I saw him take that hit and I saw the way he was limping, and you're kind of waiting around going, okay, what are they going to find? Are they going to find anything? How's he going to progress? Is he going to be out there and kind of with a limp or whatever? I wouldn't have known any different. And I think that's a credit to Barron. So whatever we got, hey man, I'm not really here to, of all things, to critique what we got. Because again, that they are trying to work through a lot of things and new being one of them.
I do think to some extent, at least, his injury storyline, at least for the next week, can be dropped down a peg or two on the storyline priority board. So I'm glad for that, if nothing else. But yeah, clearly there were some moments where you see that the chemistry between QB and receiver, tight end, whatever it might be, not in midseason form or whatever you want it to be, but they're working toward it. I think Terrence Carter was just so wide open, he didn't know what to do.
I know.
Because there was nobody near him.
TC, you got to take the ball with you, brother. But he was like, I've got nothing but green. I'm right here on the sideline. And it's like, oh, wait, I've got to have this, this pill with me here. But man,
he'd make some great plays later, though.
Yes, he would. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that young man. Yes.
Let's get to what was, at least based on reaction following the game, from Red Raider fans, I guess the ugliest spot about this, and that was some short yardage strain, Chris, to say the least. You and I touched on this a couple of months ago. I was mentioning that last night in the patio post-game reaction with Matador Mob. We talked about whether or not this was a team that was going to be constructed to be successful in those moments. And look, it's 2 weeks in. I don't know what the rest of the season will bring, but not being able to pave that path against a team like K-State, with all due respect, certainly concerning. There's just no way to get around that.
Yeah, Cam Dickey scored. He had a goal line touchdown on one end of the field in the first quarter. He had another touchdown on a fourth down in another after you tried to ram it up the middle there and did not succeed. And then on fourth down, he bounces it out wide. There was another sequence there where you kind of made some throws to Caleb Douglas and things like that. You ended up having to settle for a field goal in a red zone situation. You went for it on a fourth down in another instance there in the first half and did not convert. Look, it was 62-14. There's been many times where you haven't blown out teams you were supposed to. You did this, but we are grading on a curve here because there are serious expectations with this team. And I will say this, in my opinion, has a chance to get a lot better. I think your offensive line is still because if you noticed, Hunter Zambrano came in the second quarter and he played a lot of tackle. And I still think they're tinkering a bit. I think Vinny Scurry is getting healthier as we go. And so I don't know if we're totally solidified there up front with whatever that looks like big picture wise. But you're going to miss Quentin Joyner. We've said it. And I even with Quentin Joyner, we had shows about this. How good you were last year in these scenarios with Taj and Jalen Conyers and some of the creativity that you've shown. I will offer you this up too. You're keeping it pretty vanilla in some of these instances. And some would say, well, you shouldn't have to trick anybody. You should be able to line up and move over, mow people over and just give it to Cam Dickey and away we go. And then you salute and you move on and all that. But you haven't shown a lot of the things that you will do in short yardage yet, I think in totality. But I came away with the same question. I even said it on the broadcast. I think this is going to be a bit of a question until kind of it's not. And I think I told you in the mailbag on Friday that that's the biggest question I have about the Utah game. Can you run it when you want to? The end. That's can you run it when you want to? And I think at times in the last couple of years you've been able to do that. Now, having said that, there's been a lot of things you haven't been able to do, and spreading the field, going vertical, and all that. So we just need to kind of see if there's improvement here. Let's unlock the playbook a bit, which I think that will happen defensively and offensively, because there's some interesting personnel groups that I would say that folks have not seen yet as it relates to offense, especially in goal line situations that could be fun. I'll just say that to you. It could be
Maybe
fun.
tons of fun.
Yeah, I
Possible.
mean, yeah, that's right. That's right. So
I'm just making a guess.
I'm not saying you're going to major in some of this stuff, but I just think that you haven't really seen a lot of what is going to go on here.
Yeah.
But Cam Dickey, you ought to be able to hand it off to him and go right off. Sheridan Wilson one way or the other, and be able to get it done. So it's just a big picture kind of question, and it's not every football team is perfect, and this is kind of one of the things that we're going to just have to continue to monitor. But I think, Cowan, we mentioned this late July and early August, and we really haven't wavered from that since then.
Well, we've seen it kind of come to fruition. So
yeah.
As expected, and hopefully something that will continue to trend in a positive direction. And maybe you're figuring some things out. And like you're talking about personnel groupings, I don't have every one of these situations in front of me to know exactly what the formation or the set was, but I do remember some single back stuff. I don't know about a lead blocker, maybe a tight end or something like that they were utilizing. I also remember some shotgun stuff with the ball carrier standing right next to the quarterback. That's not something I've ever enjoyed as far as downhill efforts are concerned, but I'm curious to maybe see how that evolves too. In some coming weeks, back to those personnel combinations.
Because I think I think the question that I had somebody reach out to me over the summer, and this is what I was quoting when we got into these conversations, was that typically teams you either have issues in short yardage and red zone when you have, or when you don't have a dual threat quarterback, when you have a bigger back that can break tackles, or when you have a legit hand in the ground tight end. And I think we were kind of coming into this going, well, you kind of are not real sure if you have any of those. And typically teams need two of the three to be optimal in short yardage and red zone. And, because Barron's not, I mean, he may on a zone read one time, like, okay, I'm keeping it and may trick somebody, but that's just not going to be necessarily his jam. That's just not what you're asking him to do. Cam Dickey or Adam Hill, and we can get into that at some point, would be as close to a bigger back that you've obviously got. But Quentin Joyner was the one. I remember Joey telling everybody in August, like, hey, Taj Brooks broke a tackle every whatever time it was, and Quentin Joyner is actually in his career limited action, but he's been better by like a hit and a half or whatever it was than Joyner was. Like he breaks a tackle every, So but again, we knew no Joyner was going to be a bit of an issue, and maybe in these instances is where it sticks out the most.
What should we touch on as it relates to Adam Hill? First, today's episode brought to you by SupplyHouse. And when the whistle blows on a new repair, you can get your crew moving forward with SupplyHouse. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. SupplyHouse's real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting any projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Needing parts fast for a project? SupplyHouse has next day delivery, and that's a game changer. And their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make any process smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. And visit SupplyHouse.com to sign up for free and use our promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's SHCollege5 at SupplyHouse.com for 5% off your first order. Real people, real service at SupplyHouse.com. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly feel the call of the stadium. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. And with the money you save on tickets, you can then splurge on foods, drinks, gear, and more. Gametime makes it all possible. And best of all, Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get the first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. And if you're like me, you get tired of endless scrolling trying to find the best deal, and that's why Gametime's Zone Deals is the go-to move, since it automatically picks the best seats in your section for you at the best price. And as always, you can get a view from your seat right there in the app, so before you buy, you know exactly what you're going to see. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use our code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked on College, for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last-minute tickets at the lowest price, guaranteed. What should we touch on as it relates to Adam Hill? Because you made a terrific guess on Friday when asked who's going to be the leading rusher. You said Will Hammond. He was our third leading rusher. Where were you on Adam Hill? First Red Raider back, I think, to triple digits this season, Chris. What do we touch on regarding Adam Hill as a ball carrier? Because I got to tell you, the reaction from some mobsters last night was more so around, should we be talking about him in the context of RB2? A guy that may be a linebacker in the future? I mean, what are we making of him right now?
So the way this was going to look, and I think we've made this point before, but the way that this is going or was going to look, it was going to be Quentin Joyner and then Jacoby Williams as the change of pace back. That's what you were looking at and staring at it straight, right in the and then when he goes down, Cam Dickey kind of elevates to more of an every down guy, but he just Cam is improving. I think and it's not. He's had his moments to where he's looked pretty good. It just he didn't have a other than the 2 touchdowns. I mean, I think that and so we told you about Adam, and the thing about Adam was that Cam looked really good in August. Adam did and he didn't, but it's all about context. Because Adam, I think that the problem with Adam in August was, and this is something we touched on in the radio broadcast versus Kent State, is that I think Adam would far too often he would just get it in these scrimmages and in practices he'd get it and just bounce it out like, okay, nothing's here, and he wouldn't go to where the play was supposed to go. He wouldn't, and I think part of that is because he was playing with second, third team, and fourth team guys in some cases. And I think, as we've noted, the way your team is built right now, there's some of that depth on defense is just much better, especially up front, than it is on the offensive side, right? And so I think that's what he was dealing with. But I think since he's been able to play with more second team types in these scenarios, I think he's been able to do what is executed, and I think he's better off for it. But he also just gets behind his pads and all that. So he's a work in progress too. This is he's just in his second year here, but I have no problem if he earns more or whatever. But it's also what kind of competition is he going against too? It's just, I think my comment on the broadcast was he is a perfect back at the end of a game whenever a team just kind of doesn't really want it anymore, because he wants it all. And it's a bad combo. Because you get tired of tackling dudes like that. And he's looking for somebody to hit. It's like, get off me, man. And he's just going to go find the next guy to headhunt. And, Joey keeps talking about it after these games. He's 230 plus. And Joey's like, I want them to feel all 230. Well, they all do. And the one hiccup was the fumble, but he's just fighting for extra yardage. Yeah, you got to learn from that. But he's just guilty of fighting for extra there. And so – yeah. Maybe he does, So
you're open to it, maybe
yes, but
toward a larger role, I guess.
Yeah, and I think you're gonna need him at some point. I just don't see any other way around it. And the thing that Cam has, though, that people haven't necessarily seen is that he's got a really nice body of work. Does Cam Dickey in the eyes of the coaching staff? Garrett McGuire, Joey McGuire, Mac Leftwich, Clay McGuire, everybody that would be involved, Josh Cochran, they've seen Cam be really good in August and all that. But it wasn't. I don't think, my opinion was, it wasn't going to be good enough to unseat like Quentin Joyner as like your primary head of the committee. But you maybe you do get a little more Adam involved. But I just don't know if the depth chart will ultimately change. But this is who you've got, man. This is what you're dealing with, and we knew when Quentin went down, it was going to be a bit of an issue, and and some of this is on the offensive line, and just lack of they're still kind of learning and all the things too. Should get better. You should be playing much better in late October than you are in early September. That's the way it's supposed to go. So, but if you want to nitpick, there's a few things certainly.
Yeah. Okay. Before we get out of here, we got to flip to the other side of the line of scrimmage, Chris, because defensively we saw some great stuff. First, today's episode brought to you by The Game. Quick question for all you college football fans out there. If you could go back in time, sit front row at your school's biggest rivalry game, say in the 80s or the 90s, what hat do you see yourself wearing? Could it be this slick-looking lid I'm rocking right now from The Game? Yes, that's the correct answer. It would definitely be this one. These aren't just hats. They're the vintage Americana we grew up with, the same style fans wore in the days of our youth. And guess what? They still go for the same price now that they did back then. Just go to thegamecaps.com and use our code LOCKEDON, and you're getting this classic tech cap for only $16.99. Again, that's at thegamecaps.com with our promo code LOCKEDON for this vintage Red Raider lid and a whole lot more for only $16.99 right now at thegamecaps.com. Grab your team's classic bar or circle retro design and use our code locked on for an exclusive discount, because legends only wear the game. Okay, before we get out of here, we got to flip to the other side of the line of scrimmage, Chris, because defensively we saw some great stuff from Coach Wood's group, including the thick six that shook the world, Skylar Gill-Howard. And that was a play, by the way, if you have not noticed, that we basically had every big boy contributing to that play, because you had Lee Hunter, I think AJ Holmes was the other guy, and then Howard winds up obviously getting into the end zone. But it took them all. And, man, I got to tell you, from particularly the first team perspective of what we're seeing defensively, should I say night and day from where we've come from? I know the competition, but I'm having a hard time tempering my excitement, Chris.
Yes, but there's plenty of teams around the country that played on paper poor competition over the weekend, and some struggled. I mean, even highly ranked teams and some unranked teams. I mean, it's just so you just don't apologize for this stuff. But I have zero issue with the first team defense. That is some kind of salty, man. I mean, that is like, when those poor cats were dropping back to pass, it's like, man, say a prayer, throw one up, because it's just like, look out. I mean, you barely have time to plant like your back foot and like look. And the one time, the one play that they got on a screen in the second quarter, I guess it was, and number 5, he ran out for, I don't know, 30 or 40 yards or whatever. It's because like the quarterback was like he just like, hey man, you take it. I don't want this ball anymore. And it burned you. It was a great play call, because your aggressiveness got kind of used against you a little bit there. But that is salty. And you're right. Lee Hunter bearing down, AJ Holmes with the tip, and then Skylar Gill-Howard with the catch, and moving. I'm talking moving in a hurry. And then the play that Joey McGuire just went out of his way to say, This is what we are about. This is the brand. This is why I love this kid so much. John effing Curry, which some teammates call him. And I think had a guy on the sideline, the former player. I said, hey, who are you excited about? He's like, John effing Curry. I'm like, of all the guys, that's what you're saying? I was like, respect, man. Because we had been talking about, this was a week ago.
Yeah.
And this is why I think everybody loves this kid so much. Local product. He's got Tech lineage, and he's got Super Bowl. He actually, I think, has a Super Bowl ring at home from his grandfather. So,
and the play you're talking about is him peeling back great effort, hustle, just because he cares and wants to deliver a bone-rattling block on the Howard pick six, right? I think that's one I recall, at least.
That's what I mean. You're right. He just I don't know.
I don't think, but I'm glad.
Yeah, I don't know if Howard was going to get caught. Joey was under the impression. I mean, he was going to get, but that's not the point. The point is, it was looking out for the family. Looking out.
He's looking for an opportunity to make a hand.
Yeah, that's right.
And punish the opposition, which is still allowed in football in 2025.
Yeah, didn't quit. It's like what we're talking about Adam Hill. Like, okay, it's like he's a hammerhead shark, man. It's like, okay, who's in my focus? Because I'm looking to punish somebody. So, but yeah, the defense in general, it's just you there's so much pressure on the edge. They step up. There's so much pressure up the middle. It's like, what do you do? And that's why the Utah game is just so massively fascinating to me.
Can't wait.
Cannot wait. You got one before that, and it'll be a step up in competition again. But I have no issue with anything we've seen from the first team defense to this point. And you did get Dante Balfour back. And so that was nice to see, and we'll get into some other stuff as we go. But yeah, man, kudos to those guys. It's been so far as advertised, but the tougher tests are coming, and that's nothing you've done to this point is really impressive to anybody. We just have a lower bar around here, so it's damn impressive to us, and I don't feel bad about saying that.
No, and I think you're absolutely on the money. You don't apologize for any of this. I do want to check in with you on our next episode to kick off the week on an injury report, because obviously Mo Horn was an interesting name to see involved or not involved because of that in Saturday's game. So I want to take a bigger look at that on our next episode. But before we get out of here, Chris, crimes against the family, can we revisit this topic? Because I do feel like it's been rearing its ugly head a little too often first couple of weeks. If Kenny Perry had any hair to pull out, he'd probably do it, because a lot of it's coming when you have huge returns and you're going the other way, man. I
feel terrible for Tristan Gentry. I do. It's like,
he's the victim of it.
Yeah, who did he frustrate? Like, what are we doing here? And some of it is unnecessary. And Joey, I think Joey on a couple of them after the game, he said one of them I thought good call. The other one, he's like, we teach our guys when the defender starts to turn, you worship them. And I'm like, what is he talking about? But it's when you put your hands up and it's like you show your hands and you worship them, so the referee can see it. It's like what they teach in basketball, man. Show your hands so you're not reaching and all that. When you show your hands, man, you just move your feet. You're not going to get called. But yeah, worship them. So I think on the second one, I think Joey maybe had an issue on what was called, but whatever. But it's becoming a habit, because every time I watch this kid bust off a 30, 40, 50-yard return, I'm already been trained to like, okay, where's the flag back there? And it's happened pretty much every time. That should not take anything away from potentially seeing a weapon start to, develop in front of our eyes here.
Gentry?
He's
as a returner in week 2, I noticed, and I don't know why that would change in week 3.
Yeah, he started there, and I think you're going to continue to see that. So that's a fun option. And again, as long as he fielded it, and you can provide a little juice after it, that's what makes an elite punt returner. You got to field it first, and I think he's kind of. But the juice and the electricity and all the playmaking has certainly been there. And I don't think that anybody needed to hold on any of these. That's the frustrating thing. None of these affected like his return specifically. Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe it was a foul, but it wasn't going to affect the return at all. And that's what's got to be very frustrating too. And we talked about this last week too. Like Kenny Perry, man, you're deep in the fourth quarter, and when these things are going on, that new headset that he got, I think maybe didn't survive week 2. It's like, I mean,
keep them coming.
I think I highlighted on the the broadcast, I'm like, we got one loud word yelled, and I'm like, Kenny Perry disapproves of the latest effort by his special teams group. Speaking of, though, your punt block team is starting to become a lot of fun. We'll see if this continues as you get better, but they're starting to get some hands on some punts, and it's being schemed up. And you've had AJ McCarty and Michael Harrison Pilot and some different guys like really starting to do some of those things. So I wanted to make sure I pointed that out too. Definitely
worth pointing out, because I feel like I've seen more hands on punts in the first 2 weeks, and I've seen in, I don't know, a year, 2 years. It's not like it's something that happens regularly regardless of the competition, but they're beginning to make a little bit of a habit of being disruptive in that area. All right, Chris, looking forward to the next episode. We will get back to what I talked about as far as a bigger picture from an injury standpoint as we get ready for the non-conference finale with Oregon State, which will be an improvement from what we saw competition-wise the first 2 weeks. But Tech, according to some early numbers, wrapping up the weekend, about a 3-touchdown favorite, opening up, looking ahead to the Beavers. So plenty of time still to get ready for that one. I also want to talk on our next episode about the Big 12's weekend that was. Woes or why worry? That on our next episode as well, man. Appreciate the time as always. Enjoyed it, and we'll see you then.
Absolutely. Bang, bang. We will talk to everybody next time. The tests are coming, man. The scrimmage season is over with, so now now it all stiffens up a bit starting this weekend.
Get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. Thanks to the everydayers for always riding along. And, of course, a shout-out to the Matador Mob. You can hit our show notes and find a link to a free 14-day trial there if you're interested in joining that crew. Rolling with me into the early morning hours once again, Saturday night and Sunday morning. Thank you for all who are taking part in that. It's your direct line to Chris and myself with one-on-one text and straight
Cowan
to your phone.
Is a machine. Cowan is a damn machine. His battery never runs out, man. Respect.
Fuming it a little bit today, I got to be honest. A little coasting happening to wrap up the weekend. All right, appreciate you guys for being out there, and as always, we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.